penalties on delinquent taxes, $220,824. Now, again, that's interest and penalties on delinquent taxes. Now, how many people in our town do you think are affected by that? And if you're telling me it's just businesses, is that the atmosphere that we're giving a business, that they can't afford to be in town, to operate a business? But most of this, I would assume, is on private properties. So that's an indication to me that there is an issue about government spending. You've got families that are trying to maintain their homes, and right now, to the average tune of several $1,000s a year, people begin every year several $1,000s in debt because of the need for government spending, or at least to presume need. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Any other questions? Seeing no further questions, I will declare that Article 10 appear on the budget, on the article of warrant articles as written. Okay, Article 11. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and the International Union of Public Employees representing police employees and other than the police chief, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level: $3,291, and further to increase and appropriate the sum of $3,291 for the current fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that will be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote is required. By 5-0 vote, the Board of Selectmen recommend this. We have a motion.
I'll move to place Article 11 on ballot.
Seconded.
Motion.
Board of Selectmen have any comments? None? Okay. I open up to the floor. Any comments here? Article 11. Seeing no comments, moderator will declare Article 11 appear on the ballot as written. Article 12. To see if the town of Barrington will vote to accept the land to be donated by the Swenson family adjacent to the Christmas dog and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to pay for engineering and related studies for development of the property for municipal buildings and other civic purposes. This is a special warrant article that will not lapse until December 31, 2016. A majority vote is required, and by a 3-2 vote, the Board of Selectmen recommend this. We have a motion.
I move to place this article on the warrant.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments from the board? None? Yes.
As people know, we have been wrestling with where we would like to place municipal buildings, and there's been a great deal of discussion over the past year about that particular issue. This article serves two purposes. It allows us to take advantage of a generous donation by the Swenson family to accept a piece of property in the town center area. And it really provides the opportunity for all voters to give an indication of where they would like to see some municipal development in place. So it's somewhat of a, does exactly that. It allows the voters to tell us where they would like to see development of the town.
Any comments on the floor? Yes,
George Bailey. On Article 12, we're proposing to spend $50,000 for an engineering study. Now, on the Clark Goodwill property that the board has done a magnificent job of getting tax money for that. Did we not keep in that transaction the property, 3 other lots on that area? And was it not part of the agreement struck by the board, Mr. Clark, that they would provide parking lots and the roadway services in it to those other buildings if we should, as we the town, should decide to develop them? Was that part of the negotiations with Turbo Game to have that done?
Yeah, Yes, they did build the roads.
Okay, but we kept 3 lots.
Yes,
And we keep the back section for the tennis courts, or is that?
still have it.
Still have it. My question is that I realize that everybody's looking to, quote, have a village center or a town, but I think that we already have the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure already put in, and we have the property already. I mean, it is a generous donation by the Swenson family, but you're asking us to pay another $50,000 in this time when we already have, most of that engineering is done, and the agreement, or the transaction agreement with Turbo Cams, that they're going to provide that. And I, for one, would say that we should not spend the added $50,000 when we already have that section set aside for that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Brian Lindsay. We did some work because I was on the library site committee six and a half years ago. Yeah, 6.5 years ago. And we went in, Rick Drew and myself went in and took some topo on what was then going to be approximately a 3.5 acre, and I'll go up and show you on the thing what I'm talking about here in a second. But so I have some knowledge of what the topography and what the situation of the land is, and it kind of relates to what you were saying as far as comparing that lot with the lots on Turbo Cams. The Turbo Cam lots, as everybody that drives by them knows, it's pretty rough up in there. There's a lot of ledge, the topography is difficult, and there's wetlands. To a lesser degree, you have the same situation on this lot. And if I could just go up and show you what we topoed, and we actually got test pits. Dave Lane led the test pits. We had 4 test pits up in this area, but what Swensons were proposing at the time that the library was looking at it, the property line that they had then, right now you're looking at some of what is some of Hazen's property too on what would be part of this donation. Roughly this area here, they have would be 5 acres. What we looked at 6.5 years ago was about 3.5 acres that went about up to here came down through this wetland here and came across here, and we're behind the parking lot of the Christmas stuff now. Comparing this location with what's at Turbo Cam, again, you have some wetlands on here, which you have on Turbo Cams, and there is a pretty good novel ledge up in this height here. Topographically, the difference in elevation is about 25 feet from down this flat area here to a pretty good protrusion of ledge up in this area. So, you know, if I were rating it from a buildability standpoint on a grade of 1 to 10, I'd give this a 5, but I'd probably give the Turbo Cam lots a 3. So, but you got to consider that you've got 50-foot, if the town wants to comply with their own requirements, 50-foot buffer zones on the wetlands. So you don't have 5 acres to build on, as most of you people know in town. A 5-acre lot, there aren't many 5-acre lots in town that are buildable on 5 acres. So I'm just trying to give an overview of what that's like.
Stan?
Yes.
How many feet from Route 9 to the building site is it approximately, Brian?
Well, I think this is John, I don't know, or Garth, I guess, we're talking 150 feet in here, so, you know, another 150, probably, to get them up into there, you're at least probably 600 or 700 feet, somewhere in that range.
And in comparison, you compared Turbo Cam's lots, or our lots on Redemption Way, to the Christmas Dove site. Can you now compare it to the Ramsdale site?
It's subjective, and I'm just giving my opinion. There's
I'd like
valid either side of it. I shouldn't say that. The Ramsdale site, there's no wetlands on that lot. There's the restriction on this is if you put a building in a parking lot on here 20 or 30 or 50 years from now, you're not going to have room within this specific area. Now, there's wetlands on the backside here. If we're looking at the whole village concept, obviously there's other areas, but whatever goes in here for a municipal building, I think is pretty restricted in size and footprint and parking area. As far as expanding that in the future, that can't be done. I think the advantage that Ramsdale Lane has, even what's done up there, there is some room there to expand on Ramsdale Lane. that is not restricted by wetlands or site conditions. So, but my opinion on working on Williamson Lane is shared by a lot of people in town. So.
Thank you.
Any other further comments?
Good morning, Paul Mosteller, Route 202. If you go to the Barrington website, the last three selectmen's meetings are not present on the website. So I just want the general public to know what transpired in those three meetings. The Svensons had offered to donate the land to the town on, I believe, the 6th. I wasn't present, but I do have some other folks that were there. And the Svensson, maybe they can follow up on this, but they had said that if the town didn't develop the town center or develop it, that the town could do what it would like with that land. The following meeting, the next meeting, I believe it was January 12th, the Svensons did have some strings attached to that land. So I would allow the Svensons, if they would like to get up here and discuss what those items are, that their expectations are, to let the public know. Thank you.
Good morning, Garth Svensson. There's been talk in the paper and at meetings about strings attached. I'm sorry.